Hello and welcome to Meet the Manager with Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and this is our regular catch up with some of the best advice from some of the community's most notable FPL managers. Yes, we will focus on those with an incredible rank history, but we're adding to that this season, including managers with an interesting story to tell about how FPL is impacting on their lives, also focusing on managers who are offering a unique insight and research into the game to propel them and hopefully us up the rankings, and we've certainly got that today. My name is Joe and today I'm joined by Ragabolly, the founder of LiveFPLnet's, which has transformed, I'm not going to mince my words here, it has transformed how FPL managers view the game and understand where they are doing well and where they are doing less well. Ragabolly, welcome. How are you?
Hi Joe, I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for sparing some time. We were just saying before came on air that I've been sort of trying to get you on the show for absolutely ages, but you're very busy. And running LiveFPLnet and all the other things you do, it takes up all of your time. But finally, you've found some spare time, which is great. So thanks so much for that.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching, and I've been interacting with many people this past period, and the support I've been getting has been crazy. So thank you everyone, especially also my friend Rachel from Twitter who said told me to say hi, so I'm saying hi to Rachel. And also everyone who's watching, just thank you so much for supporting LiveFPL.
Oh, thanks for joining us. LiveFPL. So when did it start and why? I mean, I use it. There might be people watching who don't use it, but when did it start and why?
Okay, so this is the long story. I usually tend to be a quiet person. I don't talk a lot, but when it comes to something I'm passionate about, I tend to talk a lot. So this might be a long talk. But basically, I started doing LiveFPL kind of stuff in 2018, so 4 years ago. Yes, and the website itself, I think it launched in November 2018, so about 3.5 years ago. And okay, so I've been playing FPL for a really long time. This is my 13th year now. I'm very passionate about it. I play it all the time, very actively, and I'm from Egypt, so it was not very popular in Egypt back in the time. It became very popular now with Salah, and everybody now is playing in Egypt. But basically, I played for a really long time, and then I was always curious. The curiosity is what made me create this. So I was very curious about two things, basically, always. The first thing is, why doesn't FPL update in real time? And is this something that cannot be done, or it can be done? So I know now the FPL community has expanded a lot in the past few years. So maybe many people don't actually know how things used to be before. So I'm gonna tell people a little bit about how the game was working before. So basically 4 years ago and all the years before that, basically you get one update for the ranks and the leagues at the very end of the day from FPL. So the day will have 7 games scattered all over the day. You'll watch the games and see what happens, but you have no idea what is going on to your rank or to your leagues or anything until at the very end of the day, 4 or 5 hours later, FPL updates. And then you have no idea about which events that happened during the day really affected your rank up or down. You just, it's a mystery. You wait for it at the very end of the day, and you get what you get. And I was always very surprised by the fact that we spend a lot of time on this game, but we don't seem to be really understanding how it really works behind the scenes. Because I would get goals from most of my players, and then I get a red arrow at the very end of the day. How did this happen? I have no idea. And people would say stuff always I got 10 points more than the average and I still got a red arrow. What is going on? And this like really bugged me as like a manager, like all the time. I was trying to understand how really the game is working. So I was curious about like why doesn't it update, and also how does the game itself work, and like I wanted to see the effect of every tiny detail that happens on my rank so that I understand what's going on. But I was really just like a manager out there playing, and yeah, I never intended to do anything. And I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer. This is not what I do.
What do you do? What is your job?
So right now I teach physics at MIT. So I'm a lecturer of physics
Okay.
at MIT. Yeah.
I mean, that surprised me because I'm not, as people who watch the Scoutcast will know, I'm not very technical at times, and so that's astounding that you've created a website like LiveFPL, and you're a physics teacher, albeit at a very major educational institution, but nevertheless, it's not your main role. That did surprise me.
Yeah, thank you. No, like I love programming, like, but it's not my job, and I never actually learned it somewhere. Like in college, I was majoring in physics and electronics engineering. That's in Egypt. So it was not like computer science. Like I didn't take maybe one class only about programming, but I loved it. And I found like it comes very naturally to me, like programming. So I just like kept it as a hobby all the time. And then when I was doing my PhD in University of Chicago, that's when like LiveFPL was created. So at the time when I was doing my PhD, I learned Python just because I wanted it for my PhD work, because I was doing some like kind of machine learning with Python, stuff like that. So at some perfect moment of time at the University of Chicago, I was learning Python and I was doing really well on FPL. And this like for the first time. I don't have like an amazing rank history. I tend to be always in the top 100K. That's like where I fit. Like 70K, 60K, 12K one time, like 50K. That's where I always finish. But like at this particular season, I was doing like I had a perfect start. I was like in the top like 5K or something. And that's when like it hit me, okay, I want to keep this rank. I want to understand what is going on with ranks and like how it works and like what should I do to even get higher. So this competitive like nature of the game like really hit me, and at the same time I had Python, so I thought, okay, let me try to play around with Python and see if I can understand something about ranks in the game. And the first thing I did was creating some kind of a live rank just to see like the rank before the update, so that I can see it in individual like events, everything happening, I can see my rank. And I just did that like on my computer, like locally. I was just very curious, as I said. And at some point I started sharing that with the community at Fantasy Football Scout. That's like where I existed all the time. Like that's where I've been like 13 years there. Like that's before Twitter, before anything. I am a Fantasy Football Scout member. So I started sharing, like I used to like write comments on the articles saying, okay, I built this code, I'm trying it out. If you want to see your rank before FPL updates, just like leave a comment with your ID and I will tell you your rank. And I was really like putting myself out there because it could be completely wrong, you know, like it's just something.
I remember when you did that, and I was one of the first people to say, yeah, okay, tell me my rank. And I think you were one out, and I say one, I'm talking one out of say 4 million 4 million places, and I was astounded.
Thank you. Yeah, like I was very glad because like to the new people to FPL, this concept of seeing your rank like almost exact in real time, that didn't exist at all like before LiveFPL. And I know now like the whole like landscape of FPL has changed, and like this has become something that people take for granted now. Like many other services are trying to do the same and so on. but I just wanted like to tell people how it used to be. This was really something like groundbreaking, as Joe was saying, and I was very like proud of this creation. So yeah, like it used to be like a hot topic or like stick it every time, and people will like send me the IDs. I'll give them ranks, and like it was great. And at some point, Mark. So I'm a big fan of Mark Southern. Like he's like my FPL idol all the time, to be honest. And he is the one who kept me like enjoying the game for years and years. Like I really think he has a very special talent in FPL. So at some point he actually contacted me and like talked to me on Skype and like told me, okay, tell me what you're doing. This is awesome. This is very new and amazing. And he supported me a lot. So this actually, like, I'm very grateful for him. Like he supported the idea and like he told me how like lovely it is. So I kept working on it, but I never had a plan about anything. I was just like doing something as a hobby. And at some point I thought, okay, let's do a website just so that everyone can use it. Now that I'm confident enough in what I have, it can update ranks in real time, almost exactly. I didn't know anything about web development, so I just kind of learned how to do a website. It was very like basic at the very beginning because I didn't know how to do a website, but it kept improving over the years. But yeah, I'm very thankful now that like you can see like people now like depend on this, not just from LiveFPL generally. People now like to see their live ranks and live updates, and also not just live updates of ranks, but more about understanding the mechanics of the game. This was like the big thing that I wanted always as a manager. I wanted to understand what's going on. So now like with all the additions that LiveFPL introduced, like the rank tiers and the effective ownership in every tier and the gain and the loss you gain from players, and now you can see exactly how the game is working. And now you can make more educated decisions knowing like how stuff works. So this whole thing did not exist like just 3 years ago. And now even if I like stop doing, if I retire at some point, I'm very happy that I contributed even a little bit to like making people understand and maybe enjoy the game better.
Yeah, I mean, for those that haven't looked at LiveFPL.net before, I'm assuming that if you're watching a Fantasy Football Scout Meet the Manager video, you do follow this. But if you don't, for some reason, do have a look at it. What it does is exactly as Ragabolly's been saying. It offers that insight into how you're doing well and why you're perhaps not doing so well. So we'll look at things like your overall rank. There's lots of other features there, which we'll talk about in a sec, but most notably understanding effective ownership. So why are you getting these red arrows when all your players are scoring goals? Well, that's because everyone else owns those players often. So there's those elements to it as well. So let's go through some of those features of the game. So we've talked a lot about the live rank, effective ownership as well, because this is now part of what we talk about with fantasy football, and I don't think we really spoke about it much before LiveFPL. But yeah,
right.
So, yeah. How did that come about, and how has that developed your understanding of effective ownership?
Okay, so I did not invent the name, it existed before. So like the website, I don't know if you remember it, like FPL Discovery.
Ah, yeah.
That's the website that created the concept of effective ownership. And I was always a big fan of this great website. So basically, like the FPL Discovery would do statistics about the effective ownerships in the top 10K every week. But it doesn't tie to how every individual manager is doing. It's just like numbers for the top 10K. So when I started like developing, okay, I had a base for just like calculating the ranks, and like from that base, I started thinking what else can I do to enhance the understanding of the game. So I took this effective ownership idea and I started applying it to every individual manager in his or her own rank tier, because this is really what matters for you like gaining or losing ranks. Just like how the players with the biggest effective ownership around you, not just in the top 10K or like overall, just like around you. So this, I like sort of took the idea of effective ownership and like personalize it, if you want to say that, to every individual manager, so you can see around you who like are the biggest threats, who are the players that like have the least ownership, so you can get like the most gain from them. And I kept like over the years, I kept emphasizing this more and more, like the idea of gain and loss. Like you gain from the players you have, and you lose from the players, especially the players who have biggest effective ownership again, like around you. So this comes from that, the idea of rank tiers. This also didn't exist before, like just looking at like the managers around you, because this is what affects your immediate movement in rank. So like all of these ideas came like with time, but yeah, I am very happy with how things developed. And I want to say that like the feedback from the community is always what drives new ideas and new features. So like discussing with the community on Fantasy Football Scout, on Reddit, on Twitter, they always give me ideas for improvement. So
one of the intriguing features that I've used over the years is really recently is the what if tool. So do you want to explain what that is and how that came about?
Okay, so this is sort of the ultimate thing that I wanted to build from the very beginning, but I didn't know how to build it until very recently. So I was always thinking about it. I always wanted to see, as I said before, the effects of every event on my rank. And I even wanted to see the hypothetical events. So if you like just like say, now like we know the effective ownership and we know like everything, but we're waiting for the game to happen. And I wanted to see, okay, if Antonio scores like a goal, like in the next game, like what is happening to my rank? So all the hypothetical questions. So the difficulty with building like this hypothetical points and like the effect on the ranks is that like the way I do rank calculations are exact or almost exact. And this is something very important for LiveFPL, to give you the exact numbers. But this takes some time, some processing time. So if I keep changing the numbers and like want to see the effect on the rank, that will take some processing time for every combination of numbers I put in there. So what I ended up doing in order to see this is I built some kind of an estimate. So it's very important to know that this tool is an estimate tool. It's not 100% exact. Because if it's exact, it will take a lot of time. Every time you put in new numbers, it should take time to like calculate stuff. But it happens like instantaneously in the what if, right? You put the numbers, you get exactly like instantaneously, you get the new rank. Because it's an estimate, it's not 100%, but it's very good. It's a very good estimate. So I spent some time like trying to refine the estimate such that it is not a bad estimate. That's like, so I always had this idea. I always wanted to see what will happen if I just put hypothetical points to everyone. But I spent a lot of time trying to make the estimate as accurate as possible so that it is meaningful. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At some point I want like to play around with it again, and like, and this is actually, I think this is the most educational tool about understanding the game, because now you can see the effects. Like you can go there and the what if and just play around and see exactly the effect on your own rank, everyone. And like from one Salah goal, from like if you didn't captain this player, if you captain that player, you can see all the combinations. And like I believe, or this is my kind of mission, is that I want you to see like this dynamic, and then you can decide, you can make decisions for the futures based on that. I'm not telling you what to do, you know, like this is some kind of a criticism that sometimes I get, which is, you know, like it's sort of like I get this criticism that I'm trying to push people to captain like the most effective ownership player. I never tell anyone to do anything, right?
No, you're giving them the information rather than, you know, telling them. It's just saying, make up your own mind. On that point, if anyone's thinking of going without Mohamed Salah, key in the a couple of goals for him and see what that does to your rank. It's quite a frightening prospect. So yeah, I'll be getting him back when he's back from international duty. There's some other features as well. Tracking managers. You've got legendary managers you can track as well.
Yeah, the legendary managers I just added this season because usually like I report numbers for the top 10K, for the overall, and somewhere in the site I report the numbers, the averages and things like that, and the points and the captains for every rank tier. So you can go and check like every different rank tier, who are the most popular captains and effective ownership players and so on, and the average, the live average and so on. But when it comes to the rank page, which most people use, most people just go straight to the rank page and like they don't play around in the rest of the site, which is understandable. So in the rank page, I used to report the numbers for your team versus top 10K versus overall. And then there is this criticism, which is correct, that if you're not around top 10K, which is most people are not there, then it's not really a meaningful number to compare yourself against because you're not really there. I have my like worries about this because like top 10K is still a good measure even if you're not there because it's like it's a measure of active managers that you're trying to get to. But at least at the beginning of every season, the top 10K is not really meaningful. I agree. Like especially in the first few weeks, top 10K is just like players who triple captained like Fernandez this season, for example, who got a hat-trick. So it's not like it's not a very meaningful sample at the very beginning. So that's why I introduced this sample of elite or legendary managers who have been consistently doing well over their history. And this is some like meaningful active set that you can always compare yourself to. If you don't like seeing the top 10K, this is a more meaningful like set of active managers. So I built some kind of algorithm to rank managers based on their history. And like there are different algorithms out there, like different websites rank people in different ways, like the Hall of Fame and FFS, different from my algorithm. They give different weights to different things. I was not like very like precise about it. All of what I wanted is get a sample of 1,000 managers that are really consistent over the years so that I can always show people very explicitly in the rank page what these managers are doing in terms of average and like number of hits and like players remaining and things like that. So you can always see it as a metric if you don't like the top 10K and the overall. The overall, by the way, I want to tell everyone, the overall numbers are usually useless. Yeah. Like back in the day, as I said before, you're always gonna listen to people saying, I got above the average, like 20 points more than the average, overall average, and I still didn't get like a green arrow. And that's overall is really determined by a lot of dead teams that you don't really compete against. There are millions of teams, like the lower 4 million teams, for example, they have no effect at all at your rank, and these are dominating the overall statistics.
I guess they've got a good game week 1 side, or rather on paper, and then perhaps gave up. So it's full of whoever was good and talked about in game week 1, and that's probably it.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other feature that I've liked of the website is particularly handy in the off season is the virtual FPL game, and where you simulate actual matches taking place. And I was reminded recently, I think Roman Saiz scored or assisted or got points, and he was a regular points machine in the machine version of FPL. But yeah, tell us about virtual FPL, because I enjoyed that, and I know many other people have as well.
Yeah, so it's no longer running. Like I ran it one time in the pandemic, at the very beginning of the pandemic, where everybody was in lockdown. So I didn't have like this game. It's a game. Okay, I didn't have it. I just like when the pandemic hit and everybody, like the football stopped, everything stopped. in 2020. So I didn't have any like, I always have no plan, by the way. I'm just like, this is my hobby. I'm very busy with work and like my PhD work back then and now like my work at MIT. So I just like do stuff for fun, like when I have time. I don't have like a master plan or anything. But when the pandemic came and like we stayed at home, I always had this idea back like 10 years ago. I started building like a simulator for games. Like I wanted to do that. Like I love it. Back then I didn't know Python. Like I was doing it with C++. I learned like this language at some point on my own. And I started just simulating games. That's like 10 years before virtual FPL. Just like Manchester United, Manchester City, who's winning, who's scoring, and stuff like that. And then that's actually, I started building that 10 years ago. And I was at the army, like in the Egyptian army in this time. And like something happened and they took my laptop, like the army, and they never gave it back. So actually I lost this code completely. No. Yeah, so I always had it in the back of my mind that I spent like a lot of time working on it. Like,
do you think the Egyptian army are using it and are simulating games as we speak?
I really doubt. So I lost this, and like for years and years I was like hoping for a chance to do it again. So when the pandemic came and I stayed at home, this idea came back. Not like FPL or anything. I just for my own fun, I wanted to simulate games. So now that I know Python and I have the website and I'm much better at programming generally, I just sat down and like built a simulator for games based on like actual statistics from like FPL, from like all the statistics, like expected goals, touches in the box, things like that. And I wanted to make it as realistic as possible and as close to the actual like events in real life. And I built it just like for fun. I didn't have any plan with it. But then at some, like after building it, I think I spent like maybe 1 week on it, not a huge amount of time. And I liked it. I liked the simulator. And I wanted to think after that of some ways to present this to the community. Just I love the FPL community a lot. And I feel like I have some kind of talent that I was just given. So I always like try to like use it to help. That's just something I feel like I have to do. So I wanted like maybe some people will enjoy like simulating the games with me. I don't know, maybe somebody around the world will do it. But then it hit me at some point, okay, why not like do an fantasy game based on that? And it seemed like a weird idea, to be honest, at the moment, because it's a fantasy game of like a fantasy game in a way. But I thought, okay, maybe 50 people like around the world will like it. And that would be fine. I like it. So maybe there are 50 more like me around the world and I will run it for them. But this included creating a whole like framework for the game, like for people to sign up and like have their teams and choosing the team and like doing transfers and having the ships and leagues and like, so it's like building the simulator itself, the technical part for the games and like the goals and things like that is something, and building the game itself is a lot of work. But I said, okay, even if like a few people enjoy it, it's worth it. So I spent like some good amount of time creating this like my team page where you can select a team with all the budget constraints and like the like at least one attacker and at least 3 defenders and all the rules, and creating the transfers, the leagues, and also like creating like the fixtures themselves and like suspensions, like a player gets a red card so he cannot play in the next game.
Well, I mean, it's basically creating FPL, recreating it in a virtual form. But I mean, I know from me during lockdown, I remember sitting on the sofa, looking at my phone, avidly waiting to see what these scores of these virtual games that was playing out were, and it was a bit of a godsend for so many of us around the world were stuck at home and stuck sitting on our sofa. with no football.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah,
great.
the reception was great. Like I didn't expect, as I said, I was really thinking 50. I will
Yeah.
get 50 people
And
playing this with
how
me.
many ended up?
I got like, I think like 3,000, I think.
Wow. The
So
I think if you did it
that's
again
great.
and there was a similar lockdown, there would be, well, there'd be considerably more, I think.
I think so. Like back then, yeah, like the website, even LiveFPL was not like popular yet,
Yeah. Wow.
and Twitter was not popular yet. But like the expansion that happened to the game in the past like 2 years is huge. So yeah, now it would be even like, if people like it. Actually, some people keep like telling me, "Let's run season two. Let's run season two," and I want to, like, because I love, like, this is the best thing that I ever created, to be honest, virtual FPL,
Yeah.
because this is a full game from scratch. Just I
Yeah.
created it on my own,
Yeah.
so I'm very proud of it, and I'm not very happy that I'm not like running it. I want to run it again because this is my little baby. So I've been waiting for a good opportunity to run a second season. I was gonna do it if like the the Premier League was going to suspend the games for a while, but they didn't. So maybe in the summer, maybe
Wow.
I will run second
Okay.
season.
Okay, well, watch this space on that. I just wanted to ask you as well about something I'd noticed on Twitter was incredibly there was some negative feedback, but negative in terms of I mean, I think most people would agree it was very unfair, but it seemed to be more people complaining that in a way you were giving too much information, and I think people were very. I think reading between the lines, some people were not doing so well in particular weeks, and they were being given the
Yeah,
information as to why, and often so it would be their own, if they've got that information and they still make those mistakes, then it can feel bad, and you took a bit of a backlash for that. So I mean, you obviously dealt with that with good grace, but how did you, I mean, how does that affect you personally, creating all of these wonderful things that are free, and then getting the odd negative bit of feedback?
um, yeah. Honestly, it does affect me because I'm very passionate. Like I'm doing all of this just as a product of passion, nothing else. I never think of my website as a business. It has never been a business, and it will never be a business. It's just something that I'm doing on the side, completely on the side. Like you have no idea how busy I am, really. I have two
I do,
kids.
because I tried to get you on here for years.
Yeah, you do. But maybe many people don't. Like many people like just think that LiveFPL is like kind of a company run by many people or something, but it's not. It's just me like doing fun stuff on the side. And yeah, it does affect me because I spend a lot of time still, like with all like my research and teaching at MIT now and my kids at home and everything. I still like dedicate a lot of time for LiveFPL just because I love it and I love people like using it. Like it brings me a lot of joy to see like people using LiveFPL and sharing like screenshots from it all the time now. This like makes me so happy. I no longer now like feel bad when I get like a bad game week score, because like every time I just look around and see people like talking about LiveFPL and like taking screenshots, and I keep adding like little features, small little features here and there all the time, just because I want like to make people like happy and like enjoy the game more. So like people talk about it, they use it, they even use the terminology that did not exist before. So I'm very happy that people are talking about now like things like gains and losses and rank tiers and safety score. So I introduced like this little thing like safety score, which is a score you need to get so that you get a green arrow. Because this is really what you should compare yourself against, not the top 10K average, not the average around you, but the safety score is an exact measure of the exact number of points you need to get this week so far. So like this little thing that I keep just adding from nowhere, and then people like use them. This makes me so happy. This is like priceless. So when people like say negative things, I always try to like look at the positive things
Yeah.
from the whole community, but to be honest, like let me address some of the negative points if you can let me.
Yeah.
So about like the most like backlash I ever got was about the idea of introducing to the world the idea of effective ownership. I didn't, as I said, I didn't like create it. I did put a lot of emphasis on it just to make people understand the mechanics of the game. So with this comes the idea of sometimes you have a player in your team and you don't want him to score because his effective ownership is bigger than 100% and you did not captain him. So this is like where the biggest backlash comes from. Like I'm sucking the fun out of the game by letting people know that their player is not, they shouldn't enjoy the player's points. And I understand. I totally understand that. I play the game like very passionately for 13 years, and I understand that like if you have a player and you don't celebrate his points, it's not fun. It's not fun. But what I want to say is this is not LiveFPL. This is the game. This is the mechanics of the game itself. It always existed. And I always try to give this example that in many leagues, so back in the day, like every season before all of these tools on LiveFPL, if you're competing with your rival in your mini league and he captained the player and you captained another player, you always wanted the player that he captained to fail. Yeah. That's like the very natural thing that always happened. Even if you have the player, your rival captained them, so you don't want them to score. That's like always has been part of the game. The expansion of the idea of effective ownership just expands this to like all managers around you. Like this is the mini league that you're competing against for the rank. So this idea exists just because of captaincy. Having a captain like creates this dynamic, and I'm just showing you the dynamic. But I agree, like it's not fun, of course, when your player like scores points and you lose rank. But this is just
always,
the game.
That's always happened. I mean, you've been playing a long time, and I have. The days of Ronaldo Mark 1 when he was in the Premier League, Suarez at Liverpool, now Salah, and these guys, if they were so well captained, if they scored, of course, if you didn't captain them or own them, then it is red arrow time. But it just gives that understanding. But yeah, it was some of the, I mentioned it because it seemed crazy. Some of the a very minority of these comments were almost as if Mohamed Salah's ownership was because of LiveFPL there, which would be an amazing achievement for yourself, but you don't have that level of power.
No, I don't.
Shall we have a look at your career history? Because you said to me before that it wasn't wasn't as good as others, but I think it's really good. So let's have a look at your career history, and we can see that year you were talking about, 2017, 2018, where you thought, well, I'm going to have a bit more of an understanding of why players are doing well. So looking at your career, you've been playing for a long, long time, back in 2009. You've 10 out of your 12 seasons, you've had a top 100k finish. Great consistency there. There's this 2,821 finish, 2017-18, and lots of other high ranks in the top 50k as well. And you're currently 125k, so knocking on the door of a high finish there. So yeah, going back to that 2018 team, this is where, so you were in the sort of top 5k, and do you think creating LiveFPL, understanding effective ownership and issues like that helped you maintain that, to stay within that and get that high rank?
I think so. So to be honest, like when I was like looking at this, I didn't know what to expect. I was just like curious and like opening this box to see what is inside. And then when it happened, like, and exploded in my face, like this whole like new framework of thinking about FPL, it just like made me and like everyone who's like consistently using LiveFPL, made them aware of how things work, and make me like personally, it makes me always like make educated guesses and educated decisions about whether I want to take a risk this particular week or no, because now I understand like the risk, the amount of risk I'm taking when, for example, Salah has a double game week. Maybe he will have one like in the near future, right? So now you like everyone totally understand the risk, the exact amount of risk that will happen if you captain someone else, or if you don't triple captain, if everyone is triple captain at this point. So this idea of like, okay, this is a good week to take a risk. This is a bad week to take a risk. This is not worth it. This is worth it. So it's just like this understanding of the game. I think it helped me because like after that, even like I think the year after that, I got like a 12K rank, and I have never been like consistently close to the top 10K like before. And I'm not saying like anything about the style of play. I'm not saying you should be boring and template and or follow the template picks or like be crazy. I'm not saying anything. Just saying that you have the information in front of you and you understand the risks. Now do whatever like suits your style. And for me, I think it made me a better manager knowing exactly how the game works.
Well, it certainly did. I mean, you mentioned you got 12K before, but 17K in the year after that we were just talking about.
Oh, okay, 17. Okay.
Yeah, but it was 12K before the year before, so you were still sort of knocking on there, and you pushed on with that, and then 57K and 42K. So this is still sort of in and around the top 50K. So it proves.
Yeah, and I think in the past like 2 or 3 seasons, like the competition has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Like in just the previous 2 years, the amount of content out there is crazy. Like I think about the past when, like, for example, a player in my mini league will get like Milner back then at Aston Villa, and Milner at Aston Villa, he was like doing great.
I know. That's where I started to understand more about ownership, because I didn't own him, and I kept getting red arrows for about 2 months because he kept scoring every week, and eventually I got him in and obviously broke him.
Exactly. So before I think Miller was injured at some point, and then he came back, if I remember correctly, at some season. And I didn't know him because just like I didn't know. And like my rival in the league got him, and I was like, who's this Miller? Like, why is getting that Miller? And then he exploded. Yeah. So back in the day, it was not easy like to know every option. Like now everyone knows everything. Like they know every player, and so like I was playing the game very like rigorously, and I didn't know like Milner, just because like the amount of information back then is like not like there was basically one source of information back then, which is Fantasy Football Scout. Really, that was like the only source. Now it has gone crazy. So I think 50K at the moment is like equivalent to 10K before. So like recently I've been like, since I created LiveFPL, I've been in the 50K always. Not this year. It doesn't seem like this year is gonna be one of my best.
I think in and around the top 100K by Christmas and New Year time, I think is going pretty good. I think I've certainly been finished in the top 100K and been about 2 million about this stage before. So it's very, very easily done. Just thinking of your own management style here. So now that obviously you have more of an understanding of why you're getting good scores and bad scores, how has that affected how you take it? Do you see hits? Do you see points so precious now, and do you avoid hits more or less?
I do avoid hits more. I used to be like, my style was almost very aggressive. Like over the years, I take a lot of hits, and I still do, but not as many hits now, because, and like when you get like higher in the ranks, like you really feel like these points are really precious. So, but I am still taking more hits than average. Definitely, I am a manager who just like, I like to take risks. I'm not just like, I don't like to see my team. Like when I open my team and I feel it's not like a good team, I don't feel good. I want to make it good. So I usually take it still. So yeah, my own style, actually, I don't use statistics that much. I don't like it. No offense, I know like you present a lot of meaningful statistics, but for me, like just like the way I enjoy the game, and I always enjoyed it, is coming from my enjoyment of football. I love football and I love watching games. So I watch as many games as I can, and identifying the players by my eye and like seeing, oh, this one has like, oh, that has a good potential. That's like how I love to do that, to play the game. And so yeah, I've been like depending on my eye for a really long time. I know that like it's not enough sometimes, and you cannot like watch everything and things like that, but just like this is how I like it.
With captaincy as well. So obviously, I mean, I would imagine someone like you would just captain Mohamed Salah because you know exactly what it would cost if you don't. But is that the case? I mean, have you captained elsewhere, or do you not always captain him?
I was very close to captaining Havertz when like at that week, you know, but at the end I came back to my senses and I captained Salah. No, I think I've been keeping it on Salah. Yeah, for this it's like insane consistency from him. Really, like it's his best season ever. But generally, I'll take risks, and I used to love captaining Aguero. Aguero is like my favorite FPL player ever. I'm very sad that he's retired. I love him. I love like just like captaining a player who I love. Like I love watching.
Yeah. And a captaincy of a hat-trick Aguero week where he's low owned is probably the pinnacle of playing FPL.
Exactly. And it used to happen a lot because he gets injured a lot. And then he comes back and he gets the hat tricks. So I love, like, this is like what I love about FPL. I could do it, like, I think I have the mathematical capabilities of like doing it very statistical wise and like going over, like maximizing my expected points and things like that. I can do that, but I don't want to like do that. I want to have the player that I love.
Okay.
And I even like this really affects me because there are some players that I just don't rate in real life. So these players rarely come into my team because I don't like them. When I open my team and I see these players, I don't like it. So I don't get like many popular players who are just like I don't like. So
with your sort of favoured formation, so traditionally I've been a 3-4-3 type manager, 3-5-2 maybe. But I don't tend to like having too many defenders. I don't like cheering clean sheets. I prefer cheering goals. That's just me. But how about you? Are you quite flexible with formation, or do you have a sort of preferred formation?
No, I think I am always 3-4-3, but not this season. But like before that, it was always like mostly 3-4-3. So I always have like a one bench midfielder, 4.5. I always have that. And then I always also have like 2 4.5 defenders that I just don't care about. Sometimes like even 4, not 4.5. But this season, like the forwards have been really like bad. So I've been shifting more into like 4-4-2, 4-5-1 some point. But yeah, I'm typical 3-4-3.
Okay. What about other sort of tips and strategies? So you've got this one top 3K finish, so you've been there, you know what it takes, and you've got lots of other consistent finish. What do you think it would take for you to push on and get more of these top 5K finishes, top 1K, even win it?
Luck. I really need some good luck. I think this game has a lot of luck, and this season in particular, this season is a lot of luck. And I don't like it when people try to make it that this game doesn't have a lot of luck.
Yeah.
Let's face it, there is a lot of luck involved in here. And I'm not saying that this is what is preventing me from like getting like all the great finishes. No, like I do make mistakes, of course. So if we set luck aside, I think if I wanted like to be more like serious about my ranks, I would like put my emotions aside and like get players who I don't like who are performing. For example, Lingard
Yeah.
last season, I didn't have Lingard at any point because I don't like him as a player.
Okay.
I feel like he's not a good player, and he kept consistently scoring every week. And like, no, at some point also like, okay, like if you look back in my rank history, you will find one terrible season, like in like near 1 million. That is the season of Leicester City when they took the title, and I didn't have Mahrez for most of the time because I don't like the player.
Okay.
And he, like everybody, had them captain all the time, and I was very stubborn. So that's one of the things that I'm doing a little better now, like trying to be less stubborn. But I just don't enjoy it when I have players like Lingard and Sterling, and like I just like I don't think they are great footballers. No offense. So I don't just it doesn't feel right to me like having them there. So yeah, just setting emotions aside will help me, but I just enjoy it this way.
Yeah, no, I think that's the important thing. You've got to enjoy it as well, and I think some of the reason that some people have been more negative about the game recently is just because of that moment, that line that you said about looking at your team and being happy with it. And it's so difficult when you look at your team and it's like, oh, they've got COVID. Oh no, they're out for 2 weeks, and yeah, it's quite difficult to do that. But we soldier on, and it will get better soon. But let's have a look at game week 22. So just today, which is Thursday, we found out that it's a double game week 22. Well, we always knew it was, but we found out which teams played twice. So this is how you are set up for double game week 22. And I looked at this side before I get you to sort of go through the team. I looked at this side and I thought, wow, that's really good. And then I looked at your career history and saw that you just wildcarded in game week 21. So no wonder it's good, but nevertheless, good wildcard. Take us through your team then. Who have you got and why?
Okay, so to my standards, I have committed like a big sin, which is like using the wild card, the second one, like very early on.
Okay.
I've never done that before. I always keep my ships till the very end, like when like the double game weeks and blank game weeks exist. That's where I push at the end. So I never like wanted to use the wild card immediately. But what happened is I didn't have any West Ham players for game week 21.
Okay.
When they announced a double game week out of nowhere. This was not expected. Other teams were expected to have a double game week, like 21. So West Ham, I don't have Antonio, I don't have Bowen. I know they're gonna be very highly owned. I don't see any other good like options. I had James, who was out. I had like many other like little issues. I had Alonso. I didn't think he's good for the long term. So I thought about like what am I gonna do for game week 21, and nothing like less than -12 was making sense to me. And even when I took like if I take the -12 for 21 for this current game week, it didn't really feel like a good team still. So I just said, okay, you know what, wild card it is. This season has been very unpredictable, and keeping the ships for later might not. I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe something will happen and they will give us even more ships in the future.
I had a similar thought a couple of weeks ago. I played my first free hit chip because I was looking at my team. It was dreadful, and I was looking at a -12 just to make it passable. And I thought, well, there's chips for a reason, and you've clearly seen that with wildcard.
Exactly. Yeah, especially like when FPL gave everyone a second free hit, I felt like. I feel a little bit demotivated about this season because of that. I feel like it's not fair to just like change the game in between. And so I felt like, okay, you know what, let's just do something different this year. And worst case, I will be better by the 12 points I would have spent in hits. 12 points is not bad, plus whatever I can take, like extra. So I played my wild card with one eye on game week 22. bench boost in there. I said to myself, okay, let's just get rid of this annoying bench boost chip. I find it very annoying because you have to set up your team for like a good bench, and you have to find the perfect moment. And most of the time, it doesn't give you a lot of points. So I just said, okay, if I'm gonna wildcard, I'm gonna look at bench boosting the next game week just to get it over with. So that was my original plan. And I had like 3 Everton players for that because I wanted, like they were projected to have a double in 22. That includes Norwich, that's always there, and probably Newcastle. So that was like a great double. But it didn't happen now. So I'm thinking maybe I will not bench boost anymore, and you will see, like there's a lot of time like till then, but I kept a lot of money in the bank just to change one of Antonio. I was thinking about Antonio because he's not going to have a double game week in 22.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of doing Antonio to Ronaldo or to Kane. So I have the money in the bank.
Oh, so how much money do you have in the bank?
I think something like 4.5.
Oh,
it's
wow.
just enough.
Okay.
Yeah, just enough to get Kane or Ronaldo. Okay. Either now that Calvert-Lewin is not doubling as well, I might go either one, like Antonio or DCL, to Kane or Ronaldo. And yeah, I don't feel like very good like now that like the doubles are not like what we expect.
Well, I'll just quickly run through the team and then we can talk a bit more about some of the players in a second. Just run through it for the benefit of those listening on the podcast version.
Okay.
So you've got De Gea in goal. He's got Villa and Brentford, so good double goalkeeper there. Alexander-Arnold, well, he speaks for himself. Cancelo, so you've got Chelsea, but it doesn't matter with him. Reguilon has got Arsenal and Leicester. And in a 3-4-3, you've got Maddison, Burnley and Tottenham against. Son against Arsenal and Leicester. Bowen, Jota, who you've got the captaincy on. We'll come to that in a sec. Dennis, who's got Newcastle and Burnley. Great fixtures. Antonio and Calvert-Lewin. And then on your bench, which you won't bench boost, but I don't know, maybe you could. Pickford and Gray, Cody and Soufal. There could be points there, especially Gray against Norwich, who are particularly susceptible to players like him. So yeah, a really strong team though. So I think you should be happy with that. Jota captaincy. I mean, are you going to stay on him or go for a double game week player?
Obviously, like there is a lot of time left, so I haven't done a lot of thinking about it. So my thinking was that he's going to be the main like attacker in this fixture because of like the AFCON going on. So that was my thinking before the double game weeks. I didn't have a lot of time to think again now that we got the double game week announcement. But maybe I will go to some other player like Dennis. I'm thinking of Dennis because he's very involved.
He's got on paper the best fixtures, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, long time for the captaincy, but whether I'm going to bench boost or not depends actually on maybe if we get like any kind of cancellations, then I will not play it because then they will come out of the bench anyway. If like somebody misses out, so lots of time to think about what to do. But
I mean, I look at that and I with Pickford, Gray, Soufal, and Cody, I think that's quite a good bench. I guess Son and Dennis, even Maddison, could be good alternative captaincy shouts for you.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got some stats here. I know you don't like stats, so I'll put them up anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before we do that, I'll just put up a slide of the double game week fixtures that we know. So this could change. This weekend there's FA Cup games. If any are postponed due to COVID or whatever reason, then that means that the teams that we've been talking about with a double game week, which is Burnley and Watford, Brighton, Chelsea, Leicester, Spurs, Brentford and Manchester United, if their FA Cup games are off, that means their double game would be unlikely. So the extra games that have been put in are Burnley against Watford, Brighton against Chelsea, Leicester against Spurs, Brentford against Manchester United, and I think most people would agree that Watford have on paper probably the best fixtures out of those. Although certainly defence-wise they're not the best team. So they play Burnley, and Newcastle. And in terms of stats, I've put last 4 matches because not everyone's played the same amount of game weeks, so that's why some players that haven't played for ages and ages are on here. And we've got, this is XG non-penalty, expected goals non-penalty, so open play threat, and also the whipping boys, expected goals conceded. So looking at these, just before I get your views on them, just for the benefit of those listening to the podcast, we've got Martinelli from Arsenal, who was top. Edouard at Crystal Palace, both teams single game week players. Son is next, 10 points. This is why he's my captain at the moment, because he's the best I've got, I think. Then Ronaldo, Kane, Antonio, Bamford if he should ever return, Jota, Calvert-Lewin. This is why so many players like yourself have got him. And Watkins if he ever comes back. And the teams to target, the whipping boys, are Watford, Leeds and Newcastle. So looking back at your team, does that give you any thoughts, or are you still I'm not bothered with stats?
No, of course it does. I believe in the stats. Like, of course, they give you a good summary if you don't watch the games. Like, of course, like they give you a perspective. So yeah, like looking at my team now, I think it's a strong team. It's a good team. I don't have to do a lot of surgery to get more the double game week players. I don't think there are like many more that I would actually want to add. But just like this bench boost has been like really driving me crazy, because I got Pickford especially for that. I don't believe in Pickford a lot. You know? So we'll see whether I will just bench boost with him against Norwich or not. So
okay, well I think I mean, just going back to those stats again. Norwich there. I mean, they've conceded 11 goals. They're expected to have conceded, getting on for 9. No clean sheets. Back to your team again. That would indicate that also Norwich's attack is quite poor as well. So there could be points there for Pickford and certainly for Gray. And Soufal and Cody as well. Wolves' defence has been excellent. Let's go back to those stats again. Wolves defence, goals conceded 1. They should have conceded about 6. Depending on how you look at stats, that can either be bad, they're expected to score, about to concede loads, or they're just one of those teams.
That's like my main point against stats is this: like, you can present the same exact numbers in a good or a bad way, just like the way that you want to present them. So, and like, since I work with numbers and like I'm a physicist and I work with research and stuff, I know this, like, this is not just for fantasy. Like, you can twist the numbers any way that you want to present. So that's like my caveat with stats.
Looking at some of those other players there, you got Son there, but you don't have Ronaldo or Kane, but you have Antonio and Martinelli, but he's got Spurs, so that's a tough one to call, isn't it? So I think just looking at the last 4 matches in terms of goal threat and sort of defences to target, your team's looking good, really, considering those fixtures that are there. So I think you should be pretty pleased with that. So what's the plan for the rest of the season? No wild card left, so you're going to wing it?
The plan is no plan. This season is a season for no planning, really.
Very, very
so just like play along. Yeah.
Definitely, very wise. As I said, the fixtures here may change. So be aware of that if you're watching this after Saturday and Sunday. But also, this video and podcast is designed really for people to tuck into at any time. It could be in a year's time. It could be this weekend. It could be next week. But the important thing is, it's been really good to get an insight into you as a person, the person behind LiveFPLnet. And I hope. I know your video appearances are rare, and your podcast appearances are rare. So it's been great to get some time with you there. Is there anything else you wanted to add, really? Perhaps how you see LiveFPLnet going forward?
So I actually wanted to comment on something, which is like the complaints that I sometimes get when the site is not functioning, like when it is at peak times. So I just wanted to say, like again, for everyone in the community who's supporting the site, like thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And I understand the frustration when sometimes the website is down, when like everybody is jumping like to check the rank at the same moment. And this has been a challenge for me. Like this is the main challenge that I've been working on all the time. Like if there is a period of time when you notice that there are no main changes going on the website, that means I'm working on this background issue. Like I just want to let people know that I'm constantly working on this for years. Like, and some people told me to speak a little bit about the technical details of LiveFPL. So I'm just gonna give like a quick thing here, like about the challenge I'm facing all the time. So LiveFPL, there are two factors that I always want to have like the best for all the managers. There is the accuracy of the updates. I want to make all the updates of ranks and everything exact. I want to keep that. And at the same time, the speed of the update, like how fast, like after a goal is scored, how fast does your rank update? The speed of the update and the accuracy of the update are two like competing factors together. I can give you like your updates very quickly, but like a rubbish, like not very accurate. As you can see in the what if like feature, you can like see the rank immediately, but this is not exact. Like to keep it exact, I need some time for processing your rank. So there is like this debate between like how fast is the update and how accurate it is. And I always want to do it very fast and very accurate at the same time. So keeping like those two factors very high, this affects the performance of the site. So there's another factor, like how does the site perform to keep everything exact and fast. So what happens is like I have been building like so many different versions of the site. It's not the same site they built like 3 years ago. Every like few months, I change the whole infrastructure and the whole code. And I go over every line in the code trying to optimize it more and make it like faster so that like the three factors are important. I don't want to give you an updates that are not exact. And I don't want to give you slow updates. And I don't want the website to like go down. So this is like a real challenge. I just want to let people know that I am constantly working on this. It's not like I'm ignoring like your feedback. I know this is an issue. I've been like, there are so many avenues that I'm trying and like upgrading the servers now that there's more traffic, there is more money coming from ads, that I invested more and more in the servers, but it's not enough because the traffic keeps getting even bigger, much bigger with time. More people know, which is great. Thank you. But it's a huge challenge. And like recently, for example, I have changed the whole code, like for the rank page. I did it from scratch, just trying something different and see maybe it will help. And I spent like 7 days working on that, just like in the background, like taking every line and rewriting it in a different way and rewriting the whole process. And I didn't know if it would work or not. And when it came like to the actual game week, it didn't work. And the performance was actually worse. And that's when like many people were like sort of like telling me comments, and I read every comment, by the way, like everything that anyone like send me on Twitter or any platform, I read it because I'm very passionate about what I do. So like that's like I felt very bad at this moment because I've been like working very hard for the past 7 days on this, and I know like it didn't work, but I don't know. So it turned out later on that like I had a little issue somewhere that I needed to fix that is unrelated. When I fixed it, that like the performance got much better. So like my rewriting of everything actually worked, and now it's like doing a lot better. But I just wanted to say that I am constantly working on this, and it's not just like the new features and like no, I'm really like putting a lot of effort in there. And I never want like to, again, I never want this to be a business where like people are paying for this. Like a lot of people are telling me you should charge for like this amount of like service, but it never feels right to me to do that because I am just one of you. I'm an FPL manager for a long time. I never wanted like to pay for
No.
Like I didn't like paying for stuff, and I don't want to get money from like people like that. So I want to keep it free, and this keeps like a challenge, like adds to the challenge. But I am working on it. I like this is like my baby, and I'm working on
I mean,
it.
it
So
must be
just like
huge. The traffic must be huge. Just the cost of that. It does. I guess it does need to be paid for,
yes,
and so that is why they're obviously advertising, and
yes,
that's helping to keep it free for us to look at.
yes. Right now, like yeah, like the money is coming from the ads, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a saint. I'm getting money from like
Yeah.
from the ads, so I pay for the servers, and there is some money left for me. So I'm just not just like I'm doing this completely for free. Like before, like in the first 2 years, it was basically no money, no
No.
revenue, just like
Yeah.
not just enough to pay for the servers. Now, like the website has really grown beyond my wildest imagination. So now I do get to get some money. So I'm not saying like I'm just like doing
No.
this. No, I get some money from it. But still, this is like not a business to me. It's my baby, and
Yeah.
I will keep improving it. And thank you everyone who's like been supporting me.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks so much for joining me, and I hope that everyone else enjoys watching and listening to this as much as I've enjoyed that. It's been a really long Meet the Manager, but a very good, but for good reason, because you've got a lot to say. And I think when people look back in the history of fantasy football, your name will be there, because with LiveFPL.net and the understanding it's given us about how we play the game. I think that has changed how we go. It is a pivotal moment when LiveFPL.net was there. So you mentioned that Mark Sutherns was your idol from he created Fantasy Football Scout, and I think for many other people who are looking to create their own fantasy football tools, perhaps you may well be up there as well for them. But Ragabolly, thanks so much for joining me. Good luck with the game week, your double game week, and good luck with the rest of the season.
thank you so much. It has been my pleasure. Thank you.